Hawthorne?
He's done getting
Oh.
soda. We'll start with somebody else.
He's present. Klein?
Yeah.
President Larson?
Here.
Trustee O'Brien Berglund?
Here.
Thomas?
Here.
Whalen?
Here.
Zappa?
Yes.
We're watching the park board up there right now.
You know what, I looked up and I thought, who's that?
Yeah.
Which one of us is he?
All right, are there any recommended changes to the minutes from the last board meeting? September 4, I know we've
already made a few very minor corrections.
Okay.
And I'll move that we accept, oh, I can't, I wasn't here.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from the last board meeting.
Second.
Colleen, okay. Are there any other corrections?
My other,
On page 5,
Mm-hmm.
under reconvene, it says seconded by Klein. He
We got-
wasn't here.
Yeah, we got, that should be caught.
Oh,
So we got that one. And two typos,
we have the typo on page 1.
both of them. Yeah. Okay, now Sandra's gonna look for the other one.
Okay.
I'll find it.
Okay.
Okay.
That were not made by the recording secretary, just so that we clarify that.
Okay, and are there any other changes or corrections? If not, all in favor of the motion to accept the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right. Comments from the floor? Anyone have any comments which are not related to topics on the agenda? Jim? Is that microphone turned on? Yes, okay.
Yeah, Jim Biko, 404 6th Street North. Neighbor, regarding your parking lot, the erosion problem that you're having, that I have. Where it's coming from is you took the old metal shed down. You left all the sand that was the base of it there, leveled it off, and now that you're driving through it with heavy equipment and all the cars and everything and all the rain, it's all ending up down on the street, down in the storm sewer, down in my yard.
Is the majority of it going to the street or into your yard?
Well,
Or is it about 50/50?
with the rain we've had, it's, it gets washed around. I haul black dirt in, and I don't really appreciate all the sand covering it all back up. But,
Sure.
and then what happens to when it gets in the storm sewer? Plug the storm sewers up as well. So I mean, I think the sand should have been taken out of there and some class 5 or something put in there, and rather than driving through all that sand.
Okay. Could I ask Public Works to take a look at that issue? Because obviously we can't get into a debate or
I think we
discussion.
did, and I think we regraded it here last year.
Yeah, you did. You graded it, leveled it off, but
I thought we graded it so it wouldn't wash into.
that's fine. That's fine when you're driving to it with cars, you're driving to it with all the heavy equipment, you're turning it all up, it's all loose, you got the rains, and it's all washes downhill. I mean, sand is just washes. I mean, it's,
We'll take it upon Public Works, or I'll talk to Mark about it.
Okay.
It'd be the best thing.
I mean, you wait long enough, it'll all be washed out of there, then you won't have to worry about it, but that's not
You
the,
could get it to stop raining.
I like
then
the,
it'd be-
I like the rain, so that's the
Well,
problem.
See, then, there you go.
I know it, so, but that's the problem
Yeah.
that's the problem I got.
How are we gonna finish that off? I mean, are we leaving it like that forever? I
Well-
think that's more of the point.
it's part of it. I think Public Works should take a look at that and include maybe part of that as a recommendation or a thought. I mean, we really can't, it's not an item for discussion tonight on the agenda,
No.
so we can't get into it as
Okay.
such. So that's why I'm just saying if Public
Should
Works should at
we-
least take a look at the matter.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Okay, item number 4, call for the amendment to the DCI land planners.
Is there anybody else?
Oh, I'm sorry, was there anybody else? Okay, seeing none. Item number 4, we were supposed to take a look at some proposed amendments to the original developers agreement. That material is not ready, so I would request a motion to table. Am I still correct on that? Okay. I would request a motion to table item number 4 unto a future meeting.
You want to second that?
Sure.
I'll second that.
Video programming use agreement, which you have in front, is in front of you in your board packets is a recommendation to allow the town of Hudson to piggyback to an extent upon the agreement between the Village of North Hudson and the City of Hudson with our respective video programming, and all costs of which will be absorbed by the town. And it will have no effect on the village nor on the City of Hudson. Sandra, I think you've been probably closer to this, or maybe Jim.
Jim has attended some of the special meetings.
Okay.
But we've had it going for a while.
I mean, I certainly don't see anything wrong with what's being requested. The town is simply asking for very limited access to the educational and public stations, and they're gonna pay for it all.
It'll be beneficial for the school district too,
Sure. Okay.
some of that programming.
I just have one question, because I don't understand a lot of this fee. It talks about cost. What cost are they referring to?
A lot of it is the PEG fees, I believe, is where it, and that's government, what is that, public education government?
I think, Gloria, are you referring to 2B? I think that
Oh.
that part of it is talking about the physical connection, the equipment.
Is there any cost to the village
No,
with
no,
this?
so-
Okay,
no.
that's
No,
all.
there will be some shared costs. I think that the cable board, like they do for us, covers some of has some of the shared fees, but I think in this situation, the township is covering almost all of it.
Gloria, on that same topic, you don't have anything, any line item in your, in the budget for next year for this, do you?
Well, and that's why I asked
Yeah.
the question, is because I can't put it if I don't know it.
No.
Okay.
The cable board gets its money from the PEG fees, which are from the subscribers to Comcast and through Comcast. It's the money that comes back to the cable board from the franchising agreement.
If I were to look at the third page of the, jump right after the agreement itself. I'm assuming it's called the council/committee issues. And down below is a staff recommendation. I'm assuming that was Hudson, and so all we'd have to do is substitute the mayor's name for mine for the recommendation. All right. Someone care to make a motion on this topic?
Well, I'll move that. I guess basically you just have to sign it. Do we have to pass a motion? I move that we approve the agreement between Hudson, North Hudson Community Access Board and the Town of Hudson for the video programming use agreement.
Would that be for a period of 2 years? I'm looking at the last page of that, which is a fax, and it's the one from, it looks like it's from Nancy Corson, cable TV officer.
Yes, I'll add that, for a period of 2 years pursuant to the terms and requirements as indicated in the agreement.
Is there a second?
Second.
What are your roll call vote on that, Counselor? No money.
In fact, if you look at the back, there's signatures for the other piece, so.
Okay. All right, all in favor of them, is there any more discussion on it? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Plan Commission recommendations, chair update, and design guidelines. How are you, Michael?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
I believe our only order of business in our last month's meeting was the design guideline
Okay.
for commercial business. You all have one in your pack, so you've seen it. I was here a few months ago when we started this, one meeting, I don't believe you were here. And we got the direction from the board that we were looking for guidelines and not edicts and regulations and everything like that. And with help from council, we've got, page 3 really describes what we're trying to accomplish with this, and it's a guideline. It's to help us as the Plan Commission, that we have some continuity in how we do things, what we're looking for in the design guidelines of a commercial building. It also helps any developer coming in saying, here's kind of what we're looking for. And so maybe on some of the iterations going back and forth, maybe it'll save some of that. And like it says in here, it's, you can read all that, but what it said is, the goal of this document to provide design objectives and to help visualize how other projects work towards the goal of the village's comprehensive plan. So, anyway, we went through it, and it's a guideline. It just kind of shows things we like. It's not to supplant anything we'd be doing or any questions we'd be asking of anyone coming in for a conditional use permit.
Okay. Now, as I understand it, this is a non-enforceable set of guidelines?
That's correct.
Okay.
So we put points on it, but we made sure, again, that, okay, if you come in and you have all the points, you're not guaranteed a, conditional use permit.
Okay.
It's just to say, here's kinds of things we're looking for. And
Okay.
gee, why do you have that so big? It's kind of out of scale. See how it would fit better if it looked more like this.
Okay. Just one other question, which I wanted to ask legal counsel. Periodically, Gloria includes what are called legislative bulletin updates, and one of them is SB 266, which is called Preempting Municipal Commercial Building Standards. Okay. Now, I realize that is nothing more than a piece of recently introduced legislation, so it's not legislation, it's simply something which is being introduced. Is there anything currently on the books that,
there is, basically,
that limits, that says you can do this, can't do this, you should use guidelines, you shouldn't, or you should make it part of the ordinance?
I reviewed the legislation, the draft legislation. It actually references back to the requirements that the state has for public buildings. Any building where public gathers, I should clarify that. So that's what they're talking about, and so there would be requirements like exits and some fire code issues depending upon the size of the building. That's what they're referencing.
Okay.
And that's what that statute references.
So this
It
is
does not go to design.
Okay, it doesn't deal with the aesthetics.
No, it deals with safety issues basically in public, in facilities that are
Okay.
trafficked by public.
Thank you.
What is your opinion from, from a legal perspective in terms of having a set of guidelines for the planning commission to work with? Advantageous or not advantageous?
It can be advantageous to the extent that if you have developers coming in and they're spending a lot of time and money putting something together, and they find out that this isn't, where this village is at. However, you could never put everything into a guideline, which is the other concern. We did, when we worked with them, we put in some, at my request, they put in some specific language that addresses that it's not a legal document and that it doesn't give anyone any standing to pursue any claim based on it.
Okay. And what does that mean in layman's terms?
In layman's terms, means it's a guideline.
Okay.
It's a guideline, it's there, and it can be used, but it's not binding on either the planning commission, the board, or a developer coming in can't claim that this is the be-all that ends all.
Okay. Okay. And the plan commission is recommending these guidelines?
Yeah, we voted on it. It wasn't unanimous. There were some who thought it was too weak, but just from what council said is it necessarily has to be so. It's a guideline, not an ordinance.
What did they perceive as too weak? The fact that it's not
There's no teeth.
It's
not forcing anyone to do anything, but it says, okay, you're gonna come to us as a plan commission and we're gonna review your application. And our opinions is, if you have this, you see where we're coming from.
Mhm.
And when you look at it, it looks a lot of common sense, but it just says, oh, I never thought of that, and that looks good. And hiding your garbage cans. When you're building something, you might not think about that. But if you say, oh yeah, they would like us so that you don't see the garbage cans from the road.
Sure.
So if they come in here with their plan already and they say, oh yeah, we did that, that's good.
Is this the approach other communities take? Yeah, I just have no idea.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Do communities normally develop guidelines
I'm not aware of any.
versus hard ordinances?
It's something that came up in the comprehensive plan that we should have something in it, and this is what it's come into. The cover shows pictures of things that look nice.
Kevin, do you have any thoughts on that?
I get, typically you see a lot of those types of guidelines when he's, on the other side of the river, like the Woodbury area.
Mhm.
Some of the communities over on the eastern side don't see a lot of this, but, where you get into the high potential growth areas, that's where you're starting to see these guidelines that are out there.
Is there any downside to adopting these?
In my eyes, I think it's a good idea because it, puts the information out there in front of the developer. But the attorney was saying, when you're starting to generate those dollars, at least they'll have some kind of a basis to start that process when they're, starting that, the planning part of it and bringing it forth at the planning commission and the village board or council, so.
Okay. Well, for purpose of continuing discussion, I'll make a motion that the board adopt the design guidelines for commercial buildings as submitted by the plan commission.
Second.
That was Sandra? Are there other questions, comments?
I got one,
Go
I
ahead.
guess. I don't understand the point part of this. It's all one point. Are you gonna add them up and then they don't meet a certain point, you'll be chastised for?
It started that way, but as it became more of a guideline and non-binding, it's more, no, you don't need to get so many points to pass, and so many points don't guarantee you pass. That was an important legal
Okay.
concept.
Then I say, why have them? But that's all.
And you're right, it was just that we could, maybe if we do a few of these and you see some of them are coming in at 20s and one comes in at a 50 or vice versa, it may flag it a little easier. it really doesn't supplant anything we already do, it just kind of.
Yeah, I was just thinking, if I was gonna develop something, and I picked this thing up and I said 1 point, well, you know, it doesn't say what you're doing with the points anywhere in here. You know,
And
just a thought, I'm just saying, if I was, you know, I get my building permit from the village here, and they hand me one of these things, oh, this is good, and I start looking through it, you know, point, what does this mean to me?
Maybe
As a
That is a good point
question.
to bring up, pardon the pun, is,
Yeah.
we discussed at our last
So
meeting, is
my point is, I don't get the points.
some people thought maybe some of these things should have more points than others. Well, then we really got into more of a
Yeah,
scorekeeping
sure.
thing, and the slippery slope.
And then it's not a guideline.
And if it didn't have points, it
Yeah.
would still be a
That's
valued
my
document, in my
only
opinion.
comment. That's my only comment.
I'm the one who suggested points just from something I read, but I'm not an advocate of it.
Mike, I've got some comments about this, and they start with the cover. There isn't one picture out of these 6 that looks like it would fit in this village. I made a comment.
Oh, the tree one.
Yeah, maybe the tree. Bottom left corner, just to use that as an example, this looks like it exceeds the height restrictions for a C2 zone building. Furthermore, are these recommended buildings? I looked at each one of these pictures, and as we jokingly said, the only one that seems to fit is the parking lot. And if I was an architect or I was a contractor interested in coming in here, I'd wonder where I'd be able to build a building like anyone that is illustrated here. I see buildings that are literally up against the street. Well, those streets don't look anything like we would ever have in the village. And I have to ask you this question because I could answer it in a number other than you would say, and that would be how many architects were consulted or provided input in this document?
Actually, the pictures came from our consultant, who's a planner, is that correct? And he brought several pictures. Several of the members brought local pictures and everything, and
okay, but
we basically said pick out 6 pictures that kind of show a nice looking building. The one in the middle on the right hand side, nice looking building with an awning, and it could possibly, it looks like a big muds and suds kind of, you know, if you look at it.
Well, I had another comment.
The other 2 on the right are parking lots with dividers in them and some vegetation. I agree with you on the bottom left.
I'll also tell you that based on all the buildings that I know of in this village, and I've been around and I've visited almost every building in this village, there isn't one that would satisfy the requirements, or excuse me, the guidelines that you have in here. Not one. And that includes Muds and Suds, which is the newest building that we have here. As from a commercial standpoint.
What we talked about is, as we looked at some of these things, what the principle is, we thought the bank might fit that for a lot of these things.
Well, when I look at the illustrations that you have, for example, figure 1, sample site layout, I would wonder if that was anything that involved any kind of commercial activity. It looks to me like there's a truck back there, and that would probably be where the loading dock would be. And I would want to see a figure. Okay, the figure
that is
shows.
what it is, loading dock. It says G is the loading dock.
I understand. And so you got to cover up E because I'm assuming that there is no building adjacent to this. I'd want to know how you would get any articulated vehicle back there. Impossible. And when I look at this and I start going through these things item by item, front of the building facing the lot line. Okay, so I've identified the front of the building as C. And then I look for the clearly identifiable street. A, in this example, is entry vestibule is created, which faces the front, side, and rear parking area simultaneously. I don't see that, so I have to go to another page where I see on page 7, there's a picture of what I would assume would be one of these description of something similar to that. And again, I'm looking at these things are right up against the street, and so I have a question regarding, let's say, figure 2, redefining the edges. And I wonder if it's such a good idea to have all the store front and everything right up against the street or as close to. I'm having a hard time with this, Mike, I really am. And then I go to page 8, excuse me, and it talks about alternate design for, I'm having a hard time with this, Mike, I really am. And then I go to page 8, excuse me, and it talks about alternate design for big box retail.
Yeah, we talked about that one.
I'm sorry, Mike, I can't support this document in its current state, because to do so would be to say to any architect or any developer who wanted to come into the village and wanted to establish something, if they take a look at this, they'd start to do the same thing I did, scratch your head and go, now how can I see, figure 2 contradicts figure 1. Where's the loading dock for the store entrance? There isn't any. I'm trying to put this together in my mind as to how I could use this if I was a designer. And I'm having trouble with that.
For what it's worth, as I was reading it, and it's just an opinion of one, obviously. If I was either doing a major remodel or building new, the question is, would I rather, as the builder, would I rather have nothing or something, which is just a suggestion? As I read through each of the items, as you were doing, almost every one of them says, you know, like, to the extent possible, or where feasible. So it's kind of like disclaimers.
Well, I'm looking at the pictures, and does this mean I have to have that kind of a window? And the answer is, of course not.
No.
But I look at these and I look at the way they're drawn in relation to the street. They've got these on sidewalks. They don't have sidewalks.
Well,
I want to, if we're gonna have some guidelines, have a guideline that relates to the existing village, not to some. I got to tell you, when I look at these pictures, I see Woodbury Lakes. You know where Woodbury Lakes is?
Yeah.
Okay, Woodbury Lakes is that new development of stores that is at the Woodbury Water Tower. When you go down 94, it's the one just to the south side of 94 at the big Woodbury Water Tower. I was just over there, I was visiting one of the stores, and I couldn't help but look at this and go, ah, Woodbury Lakes.
Maybe where the picture came from.
No, I don't think so. The recent update that we got from MSA has a picture of exactly what you've got designed here. But the interesting thing is there's a street with a sidewalk. It looks more like what would fit in the city of Hudson, not in the village of North Hudson. And that's what I'm trying to, that's the point I'm trying to make.
We were able to spend a couple meetings of, committee time on it. And as you know, you granted us a small stipend to pay for some professional help on it, and so, it's not as, like you said, the pictures and everything aren't custom made for North Hudson. You're right. And, if you choose to adopt and strike out the reference to the big box store, that would be great too. It's to illustrate the points of the scale and of this I'm no architect, but when I see it in this thing, I say, oh, I see what how you can do it without stepping on everybody's toes and telling them how to build things. That was the intent of it. And again, the fact that it's not legally binding whether they do this or that, I think that helps a lot. And if there are really bad parts out of it, if I were you, I'd vote to, remove it. I mean, it's to be edited.
While it's not legally binding, it does go with the planning commission, and my concern is if you get someone new on the planning commission or the uninitiated, they're going to cling to this. And so that's going to be more obstacles for people to get through, maybe needlessly, unless, even if there's a lot of imprecision in this. So it could complicate things a little bit.
The purpose of the guideline is to help keep that from happening,
Yes, I know, but
okay.
I'm just saying I'm just on the side of it. I somewhat echo George's sentiments, and I agree it's kind of nice to be able to show a builder or somebody interested, here's kind of what we're shooting for, so you can get right to the heart of the matter. But my concern is how some of the specifics in this here are interpreted. Like the pictures, for example, up front, if I was looking at it, I'd go, these don't even look like anything up here. What's the rest of this thing looking like? It's kind of hard right away visually. You're going, guidelines for what town? This doesn't look like anything up here. So it might be discarded or be not as not regarded as highly as we'd like people to look at if it isn't a little more accurate. I think the essence of the guidelines is good, but I'd say probably this particular piece needs just a little refinement. Just, you know, take out a picture or two or keep some that are closer. I mean, go up and take some pictures of like the riverbank or something like that.
Or muds and suds.
Well, anyway, if some things we have that are relevant, you know, with the right-of-way up there and what limited areas there are, it's a peculiar situation that doesn't fit for everything.
Let me ask the board members a kind of specific question. Should we have a set of guidelines for commercial development? Guidelines. You know, whether it's this particular language or something entirely different. Just because, you know, we did authorize
wasn't this
and
part
direct
of-
plan commission to do this.
Yeah, wasn't
Right.
this part of the comprehensive plan that we were going to have a set of guidelines? I mean, that was one of the things that was written in that,
Yeah,
suggested
I believe it
written,
was
and
one of the
we said,
questions.
okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Now we're getting to the point, well, we got one, now do we really want one?
Well, I think it's a good idea to have guidelines as they are advice, like, you know, where to put your garbage cans, where we want you to put your garbage cans, please do this. But I agree with George, this is a little offsetting here.
There's a statement, in fact, in the meeting minutes from the Plan Commission meeting of September 19th. I'll read it. Plan Commission discussed the photos and consensus was to only include photos of desirable design on the front cover.
As opposed to, we had some examples of bad examples too, with the context of that statement.
I don't have any problem with the pictures. Pictures are just pictures. Get you an idea if it's, you know, community, commercial type buildings. I'm just wondering what we do with the guidelines. Are we having any problems with developers or people that want to build on commercial property around here where they are really off base, or are we concerned about that? I mean, we've got 35 out here, but we also got the shop yards that, you know, that could be developed at some time in the future, it seemed to me. I mean, those are kind of the two areas.
I'm
Careful with the word development of the shop yards.
Yes.
That's on the list of national, the registry of historic places.
Yeah.
You're very limited on what you can do with that.
I think, isn't that with just one or two buildings, but
I don't know.
not the whole thing? I think there's just one building there that is of concern.
Joe, one of our
Yeah.
long-term
But I mean-
members, one of our long-term members said that, who's been involved with a lot of the
Mhm.
plan commission things, just mentioned how on several occasions, it's been 2, 3, 4 meetings sometimes, he referenced the bank and some of the bigger things, where they came in with this and then we'd have to say, no, we want this, then they'd come
Yeah.
back with this, what we're trying to do, and if tweaking this might make it better, then that would be great.
But you know, Mike, that's really, I'm glad you said that, because now that we have the bank building, and that is an example of the type of structure that we want in the village, let's put that on our cover.
Oh,
If Muds and Suds is the type of building that we want in the village, let's put that on. Let's put some real buildings on that an architect or a designer could look at and say, oh, I see what they were talking about.
One way you may choose to vote tonight is to table it, and we'll tweak it some more with, you know, give us some guidance on what you're looking for, like on our initial one, and we go back and tweak it. That's certainly your option.
I like the idea of having some sort of guidelines too, which does seem like it would help when people do come to you for their buildings. But, I mean, I'd like to see the whole thing on the big box removed, since we would never allow the big box. So I think, you know, with the, you know, some of the tweaking that we've talked about, I think that would help make it a little more easily understood for the developer or the rest of the people too.
Yeah, it would just seem to me, I like the idea of the guidelines. If you were a plan on the plan commission, and we don't have necessarily architects and engineers and developers on the plan commission. They are people from the neighborhood at large. How do they know, when somebody comes in with a plan, and it's the first time they've looked at it, I mean, how do they know? How does anybody, well, I like that. It gets to be an artistic thing, you know, whether you like that design or not, or whatever. But to help the plan commission to make an educated recommendation to the board, they approve this or not approve it, you know, I think that would be worthwhile. But again, you know, I stress in your head that if they're guidelines, the plan commission has to understand that these are not ordinances.
That's very clear.
One of the things which we also collectively agreed on is that there should be, at least once a year, there should be a joint meeting between the plan commission and the board. And, you know, maybe this would represent, you know, a good topic for the two groups to get together and discuss. Because one of the things I'm a little bit concerned about is when we commissioned the plan commission to do this kind of work. We didn't exactly give them the largest budget on the planet to get that done. And they presented us with a set of guidelines, which.
I go back to this was not initiated by any trouble. This was initiated by the comprehensive plan, which I'm guessing is pretty much boilerplate stuff. We don't have enough building going on up here to have a problem, per se. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm not, the amount of money we allocated for it, to me, is irrelevant.
It's proportionate.
Yeah, it's proportionate to
the issue.
Yeah, this wasn't from any huge problem out there. This was part of a comprehensive plan, something nice down the road, and get something in place. And it's going to take a little while, especially when you haven't had one before. It's to be expected.
I agree.
But I'm just saying I wouldn't apologize for that.
No, I'm not apologizing for the dollar.
I don't expect a terribly finished product here. I mean, you did a nice job in getting this together for what you got going. It's just, it's going to take some time, but it should start out pretty general so that it can be tweaked along the way as experience dictates.
And personally myself, if, you know, the things that you've seen and the suggestions you made to it, that's fine. I was kind of hoping we were going to get this, our last draft to you last month, and have you look at it, mark it up, and get it back so that when I came here this one, we would have already had that. So I'm certainly not offended. We take our direction from the board, and that's fine.
You've done exactly what we requested of you, and we appreciate that. The only question is, what really is the most appropriate method of proceeding?
I like the idea of a joint meeting where you get the plan commission along with the board and, you know, spend a half hour talking about this.
I think Mark's point is well taken, which is, it's not the most pressing issue we've got to deal with collectively.
Yeah.
But it certainly is one that, from a long-term perspective, might have hopefully some value as buildings either get updated, remodeled, or somebody builds something new.
Well, you got to start with something like this.
And at least this is a start.
You have an expectation in that, and you have to start with something like this, and it has to be relatively soft. It has to be guidelines, like Mike was saying. From when if someone comes in, at least they get a look to see what you're shooting for. At least you're paying attention to that sort of thing. And naturally, you're going to get people who are going to come in who are going to look for a variance, if you will, from this, depending on what the lot might be like, what the circumstances are, and the guideline aspect of it kicks in then. Yeah, but at least they start from that point of view. They know kind of what to expect. But I think each case stands on its own merit, depending what kind of business it is, where it's located. Say it's behind where Idaho Chuck's is, for example, back there. Are you going to be as concerned about some of the things as what these pictures might indicate you're concerned about?
It'd be nice even if we're not ready for it yet, although instead of a picture, maybe an architectural drawing of the Village Hall might be nice on the cover.
Oh, yes.
see, okay, how does this fit with the guidelines? We hope it fits.
I like that.
Okay.
I really do.
I don't have any trouble
Visual
with,
on it.
we have a motion on the floor and a second. I made the motion, Sandra seconded it. I don't have any
Oh.
trouble withdrawing the motion, if you're prepared to, but I'm not sure what the subsequent motion should be.
Mike suggested tabling it. Did I understand it?
If you tabled it and if we can still get it on our agenda for next month, I don't know, we got enough time. to do that.
I'd suggest if they table it, get it on the planning commission's agenda, and if a board member wants to go to that meeting,
Yeah.
go to that meeting and voice your opinion there,
Okay.
rather than having a
joint-
joint meeting. I don't see the need for it for this
this issue.
particular item, no.
Okay. Other thoughts?
I mean, if you go there, it's, you can get your voice, 2 cents in that way, in my opinion.
Okay.
I think that done properly, a guideline could be a very valuable tool for Mike to use to clarify what our desires are as a community. What I see with this is exactly what I was concerned about, not being negative about the work that was put into it. This appears to be a derivative of that Vermont plan with some major changes, but it still would be beneficial to put a little more finesse into it to really convey the feelings that you, I believe, Mike, have, and all of us as village representatives try to convey. I think just a little more tweaking. That's what my concern was when I brought it up a couple, 3 months ago when we gave them that pittance salary to do an insurmountable task. But I don't know how to exactly go forward to accomplish that, but I think it's close, and I think it is a starting point that just needs a little bit of tweaking, and it will be beneficial, if that makes any sense at all.
Like Mark said, we could take stuff out that really doesn't apply now. You can always tweak it and add it to it later.
What do you think would be the preference of the plan commission?
To adopt it tonight.
Adopt it so they don't have to continue working on it. Besides that, you can't have that as an option.
I think we can do that much. I mean, I think we can take out things that aren't happening, at least in the near future.
Okay.
We were looking ahead too, but that's all right. It doesn't all have to be on the first shot. I'm fine with that.
So then is the motion to, I'll try to articulate one. The motion is to recommend that the plan commission recommendation is not to adopt it as stated, but rather to return it to the plan commission for further development. Since the request was, do you want to develop it or not, yes or no, I think from a Robert's Rules of Order we need to follow within what was requested. The answer is no, we're not going to adopt it, but rather return it to the plan commission for further development.
Well, there was a motion on the table, you're gonna have it withdrawn.
I withdrew it already.
You withdraw it?
Yeah, as did Sandra.
Colleen.
Or Colleen, I'm sorry.
And you're looking for a second for your,
Yes.
I'll second it.
Okay. And I think George's, Mark's comment from before were appropriate too. I mean, if you've got very specific issues and thoughts that can contribute to the development of this, by all means, try to attend the next plan commission. We'll have to notice that meeting appropriately. The board members might be there, but that's no problem. Okay. Any other comments? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, and as I recall, we had no other business last month.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Finance Committee. Claims, as it indicates in your board packets. We had bills from, for the month of September. So I'd make a motion to approve the September non-reoccurring claims totaling $119,567.09.
Did you make that?
I just made that motion.
Who did?
I did.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay. Any comments or questions regarding the expenditures for the month? Okay, if not, we'll do a roll call vote. Start over here. Joe?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Colleen? George?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, Chief Election Inspector pay differential. You got your material. Bottom line is it's being recommended that the Chief Election Inspector's rate of pay be differentiated from that of the other inspectors, and specifically that it be $9 instead of $8. And so as Chair of the Finance Committee, I will so move. Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? I think it's appropriate. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I think it's a very appropriate differentiation for the village to be making. Since it is at least a related spending, we'll do another roll call vote.
Yep.
Joe? Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Yes.
Sandra, Colleen?
Yes.
Yes.
George? Okay. Authorization to solicit bids for financing the street reconstruction project. Project has been approved, and the village administrator has identified the number as, I'll get there in just a second. Move that the village administrator be authorized to immediately solicit bids from local and state lending institutions for a loan in the amount of $131,468 to be repaid in blank number of years. We need to fill that in. Loan will incorporate provisions for 2 loan payments per year, with the first payments due in 2008 and no prepayment penalties. I left the blank in the years because I think we should discuss that. That's what we think is appropriate. But other than that, that would be my motion. With that blank, you have to be determined. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Who had the second over here? Colleen?
Yeah.
You got it.
The next motion that we're going to be making is to accept a loan bid from Riverbank for $415,000. And we're going to pay for that one over 10 years. If we're looking at paying for $415 over 10 years, what's appropriate then for paying back $132,000? Does it follow that it be 5 years?
Becomes really a question of how much do you want to put in debt service?
Exactly, exactly.
Now, recognizing of that 131,000, 50% will come from assessments.
Right.
Okay, which means some, you can speculate, but at least if the history in the village is true, most people pay those assessments prior to the amount of time given them in our assessment policy. Okay. My only thought was, I thought 10 years would be a little long for that dollar amount.
Right.
Now, you could certainly do it for 10. That reduces your demand on the budgeting process.
And increases the amount of interest.
Potentially, unless you're elected to pay it off.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin, are you familiar enough with the policy that you could tell us how many years, if we were, what the assessment policy would state?
Well, I don't have a copy of it tonight, but
Would you grab that?
yeah, the dollar amount that we were talking for on the St. Croix Station project was, if I remember right, $2,000 to $3,000
You mean per lot?
per lot.
About 2,500, I think, something
Yeah.
like that. 2 to 3. 2 to 3 is the bracket. 2,500 sounds about right.
Yeah. So if I remember right, that was under 5 years for,
I mean, there should be a correlation there between the assessment policy and the length of the loan.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't want to, my thinking on this is that you don't want to have our loan longer than what the repayment plan is for the residents.
For, if it's over 2,400, that'd be 6 years. If it's over 3,500, so that would be that would be 7 years. So it's in between those two. Do you remember, was anybody's over 3,500?
They're all the same.
They all the same.
They're 2,500 or less.
So it's over 2,400,
Who's got a calculator? I think it's.
but not less than 3,500.
It's,
But not more than 3,500, so that would be 6 years. The assessment policy would indicate 6 years.
I have to wait for the sun to come up. Yeah. Good luck. My heart gets blocked.
I'd suggest 5 years.
Pardon?
I did
I'd
too.
suggest
I mean, it
5
seems
years.
like
It's the number I had, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's, as long as it's,
'Cause at that dollar
It's-
amount, most likely it's gonna get, the
it's-
assessments are gonna get.
It's right
paid
at
pretty quickly.
$2,500,
Pardon?
$2,500 or less per individual.
Okay.
Most
Okay.
most are gonna pay 2,500.
And they'll probably pay it within 2 years.
Yeah, I would guess.
With respect to the motion, I left out the, to be repaid in blank years. Is everybody comfortable with 5 years? If so, I'll just make that a
Yeah.
part of the motion.
Yeah.
Okay. So you, yeah. Okay, thank you.
The question I have on that, when we collect the monies, is assuming like George says, 90% of the people pay within 2 years, do we pay off that loan then early?
Mhm.
And so we don't have to incur that interest? Okay.
Mhm.
are we assuming the interest rate will be similar to that of the village hall? In that?
I think that's a fair assumption.
Okay.
You know, absent some action by the Fed.
In other words, we better act fast.
Well, should be doing it tomorrow. All right. So, all right, this not.
It's 5 years. So.
This is not a spending, this is an authorization to solicit, so I don't think we need a roll call vote. Am I correct? Correct. So all in favor of the motion to authorize Gloria to solicit bids for the 5-year time frame, signify by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay. Village Hall asbestos removal and abatement bids.
Not yet.
Pardon? What?
D.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It's kind of an important one. You know, I look upon that one personally.
Yeah, it's such a small dollar amount.
Yeah.
Jumping ahead here, and Gloria was so good enough to do an issue statement on that. Again, as chair of the as the chair of the Finance Committee, I would move to accept, just for background, the village did solicit bids. 2 came in, one was from the Riverbank, one was from Citizens. Both were exceptionally close together. One also came in from the state. Their interest rate was a little bit higher. Well, of the 2, the Riverbank's interest rate was
4.68.
next page. 4.68. Citizens Bank was 4.759. So I would move to accept the bid from the Riverbank for $415,000. with a 4.68 fixed rate over a 10-year repayment schedule, with 2 installments per year beginning in 2008, and with no prepayment penalties.
Second.
Was your second, Mark?
Yeah.
Okay.
All I would like to say is I'd like to have Gloria negotiate my next home loan. Fantastic rate, just so that the public is aware of the fact that we are a good credit risk, and also that the banks look at this as a tax exempt loan. That's why these rates are so much lower than a typical loan would be. But I think this is a fantastic rate.
This is obviously a spending one. Any other comments or questions about the loans? If not, this is a spending one, so we'll do a quick roll call vote. Joe?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yeah.
Sandra?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
George? Larry? Yes. Next item is Village Hall asbestos removal. As was identified during the start of construction on the remodeling, we found asbestos in the building. We have it in a whole variety of places, both floors. We have asked 2 contractors to give us bids. They have done so. The 2 bids are extremely similar in terms of dollar amount, but it is the Finance Committee's recommendation to accept the bid from AirTech at a cost of $8,750, but the motion would be to accept their bid at a cost not to exceed $10,000, because there may be some unidentified expenses may come along, and that these funds would be authorized from the undesignated general fund for purposes of payment.
Just to clarify, Larry, AirTech's bid option number 3 for an amount not to exceed 10,000. Option number 3 is
Good point.
the complete removal of all asbestos.
Okay. So is there a second to accept AirTech's bid? Second. Okay. And that would be option number 3. Did you pick that up? Yeah. Okay. All right. Comments or questions regarding it? General recommendation from the Finance Committee was, if we've got asbestos in the building, rather than deal with it partially, let's deal with the whole issue and get rid of it once and for all. And the subsequent boards don't have to deal with it. Okay. All right, spending decision, so we'll do a roll call vote. Start over here.
Yes.
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 Joe?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Mark? Okay. 2007 budget, you've got that material in your board packets. From the time that the board packets put together until today, Gloria's had the opportunity to update that, as well as the 2008 preliminary. We're obviously not going to get into the budget discussions tonight. We will be doing that on Thursday, starting at 5. That's right?
Yes.
Okay. Going until however long it takes, or at least until we run out of gas.
Bring coffee.
So, pardon?
Bring coffee now.
Bring good coffee. Do you know where you can get some? Ooh. Oh. Fine, you sent me a fastball right down the middle of the pipe. Now, Gloria has some new materials, correct?
Yes.
So what you want us to do is turn to finance.
Yep.
All right. And all of the budget material that's currently there, this.
You could leave it in your book, because you always leave your books here.
But it's in there, but it's not correct, right?
Correct.
Let's
Now
just,
we're discarding all the book.
okay, let's
This
just,
is everything
pieces?
after the AirTech proposal?
yeah, everything that looks like 2008 proposed budget, everything comes out. Okay. So just, and insert the new stuff.
Well, but then don't leave your book here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Completely new
everybody will
packet.
just take your book and bring your book. Give it to us in any order that you think makes the most sense.
You need some help? Can I help you pass things out?
Oh, we're taking it with us. We're taking it with us so we can study. He's doing it. He's doing it.
Sign and notarize that.
Punch.
Okay? Is this, oh, okay, this is for
Yeah, that's why I did.
the whole thing. I see what you're doing, okay. Pass them down.
The way she was handing them, I thought they were identified by name.
Yeah. See if you got enough.
I just passed one down.
I got one.
So, okay. Sandra's the only one that has the budget.
Then she can lead the discussion.
Well, bad time maybe on big. How about some sticky buns?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Did you have any other comments prior to the Thursday's meeting?
I tried to put together cover sheets to follow the process between the years, so you can go through and 06 actuals and watching the fund balance go up and down and remembering that this is only submittal based on the different departments' request, and I had to put something in here, so now you guys get to go to work.
Okay. Great, thank you very much. Appreciate you working over the weekend to get that done. Moving on, Public Works.
Okay. I just have one item to talk about this evening. It has to do with our on-call policy. We've been talking about this, I think, for the last couple of sessions at the board. And as you know, we're trying to reduce the number of employees that are involved with our off hours on call. As it stands right now, we have to have 2 people present during off hours in case we have to get into a lift for our sewage areas. And if we go to what is called a strict do not enter policy, what we will do is we will have 1 person on call, and if we have a problem with a lift or need to get down into a confined space, which is the issue, we will call a contractor who will then do it. And that is done in many other communities around here. I'm not sure if Hudson does it or not, and Mark, you can help me out here. But essentially, for the last couple of meetings, we've been talking about revising our permit required confined space entry program, and we want to make it a strict do not enter policy for village employees. But it means our contractors then are going to have to carry the ball on how to get into confined space and do all of the things that we need to do so that people are safe, because that can be an issue with the fumes or whatever is down there in terms of loss of life, really. So we have looked at and have had somebody rewrite our permit required confined space, and we want to eliminate the old one and bring in a new one, which is item number 3, I think, in your packet under Public Works. So Public Works has looked at this. There's a couple of things that I think we wanted revised, but I don't see them in here. Do you remember there was on page 2, there was going to be just a little different notation in terms of, I don't see it. Right here is page 2, and we didn't get it in here. You still have the item as U, and we needed employees and contractors of the village for that.
Okay, I moved on to this line, was also
Okay.
said that it's
Well,
switched.
Well, we just needed to cross out that U. And then there was the issue of the Commerce Department was going to sign it? Or who was
Basically
going
what
to
it
do
is
that?
what Joe's referring to is, I went back through this with our safety consultant that actually wrote up this policy for us. Basically on the signature sheet, starting with page 17, which I'm sorry, there's two of them in your packets. One's been crossed out.
Okay.
On page 17, that has to be signed by myself and the contractor. Myself as the village
Okay.
representative, and then the contractor signs. On page 18, that has to be signed by myself or the safety consultant. The actual person will do that. That was where we thought it was Department of Commerce.
Okay.
It actually came down that as a village. On page 18.
Okay. Page 18 can be a village
Yeah.
representative.
Yes, that'll be,
It does not have to be signed by the consultant?
it has to be signed either by myself or the consultant, whoever's gonna actually do the initial evaluation.
And who is going to do that?
It most likely will be myself.
Okay, so we need to have then on page 18, the signature is Village of North Hudson representative, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, for those of you who are following along, I'd like you to go to page 2 because there's a couple of, and for those of you who are not following along, you don't have to listen. For those of you who are, on page 2, there's under to purpose, paragraph A, there's in the last sentence, second to the last sentence, there's the word "you" in there, and we want to cross that out, and it should read protect and insert employees and contractors of the village from hazards of entry into and working in this environment. That should be added into the document. And then as we were just talking about on page 18, we want to, under the inspected by and the signature, it should be Village of North Hudson representative. And that's what the document should be. Other than that, the Public Works Committee has reviewed this and it makes sense to us. And so my recommendation is to have the board approve, and I move that the board approve the permit required confined space document. Is this dated at all? It says 2007.
It'll be July 2007 when we initially did this. If you want, we could actually put in, with the revisions and everything else, I suggest make it September 2007.
Okay,
You could do the document attached, if you
the
want.
document attached, okay. With the items as noted.
With the corrections.
With the corrections, thank you.
Second.
Okay. Okay. Question?
Does this eliminate that shared weekend work thing with Hudson and all the other villages?
We do not share work with the city of Hudson.
I mean, but we had talked about that in the past.
Yeah,
Is this
City
an
of Hudson
alternative to?
basically has responded back to the village's request saying that they have enough personnel basically
Yeah.
to cover their own needs, that they really do not have personnel to help cover
You,
those.
you may be also talking about, in case of an emergency, the surrounding communities can draw on us and we can draw on them.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah,
that
and
policy still
that
doesn't-
does not change.
This,
Okay.
that's more for a disaster type
Yeah.
policy.
Okay. Thank you very much for clarification.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the permitting and entry document which is attached. Any other questions? If not, we'll just vote on it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay. You'll take care of those corrections and make sure it's stated then? Okay, smart.
All right, moving
That's-
on to
that's all I
public
got.
safety.
Is Joe done?
Yes, I'm
Yes.
done.
Okay.
I relinquished the remaining time that I
Oh,
had to
really?
public safety.
Wow, what a guy.
Nice job, Joe. I thought it was great.
Joe, there is something here in the snow removal contract. Does
Yeah.
that need to be?
That's why I asked.
We're in the minutes, but it's not on the agenda, so it can't be discussed tonight.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we had, the Public Safety has had 2 meetings since the last board meeting. And one of them I'd like to discuss with you. Is not a regular meeting. It was a meeting that we had with the judge, Ben Wolpat, and Denise Anderson is the clerk of the court. And you may recall when we brought something to you much earlier this year about going after what I would, is it correct, Chief, to call them people who have been scoffing the law? Outstanding fines, okay. And the judge, along with Public Safety, endorsed going after people who had not been taking care of their financial obligations when they were given a citation. And I'd like to just give you some numbers that are actually quite good. They issued 56 arrest warrants since April 2007. We currently have 47 active warrants, 8 of which were entered prior to 2002. There have been 15 arrests on the warrants. Of those arrested, 9 have paid in full for a total of $1,910.30, and 2 are currently on payment plans. 17 defendants have paid in full upon receiving a warrant letter and prior to having the warrant entered, for a total of $2,562.90. The reason I bring this up is it's working. When somebody gets cited for anything, if they don't pay their obligation, we will go after them. We will warn them that we are going to come after them, and it's paying off.
Good.
And so I wanted to make you aware of that. I see Mark is at the ready. Would you like to add anything to that, or shall we go right into the, do we need to talk now about the capital equipment, or can that wait until our meeting on Thursday? Okay, very good. All right. Did you want to talk at all about the, well, I see you here, so I will turn it over to you for.
All we've got is the patrol car bid.
Yeah, I'm going to get to.
I think the next item would be the patrol car bid, and I guess the only thing that I would add, there should be a issue statement or a memo regarding that. We received one bid in the amount of $1,200, bid for the retired squad, which we called Squad 910, and that was a 2,000 crown bid. And it was the committee's recommendation to accept that bid.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to accept the bid of Ms. Diener for $1,200 for the Crown Victoria.
Is there a second?
Second. If you're looking for it, it's the very last page of this section.
Is it an 01 or a 2000? Not that it really matters.
2000.
I believe it's a 2,000.
87,000.
That's probably right.
No.
No, it's got 87,000.
87,000. Oh. Okay.
That's on the body.
Easy required, right, Mark?
Yeah.
It does because you're
City
selling an
miles.
asset.
Stopping and going.
Okay. Any other questions? I mean, the only thing that's in debate here is, do you think we ought to hold out for more money? Okay. Mark thinks we should. What do you want to make?
Sold.
We noticed it, it was a bid.
Well,
Or we
you
could not
couldn't
accept
reject
it.
it. We have rejected it in the past.
We've done that before.
Yeah.
Sure, we did with Public Works truck.
Sure.
It states right in the ad that you can.
Oh, did, okay.
Let's make Ashley a happy camper and let her buy the car.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote then if you're in favor of selling the car, as indicated in the issue statement. Sandra?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Joe? Jim?
Yeah.
Mark?
Yes.
Larry, yes. Okay. Okay, Village Hall addition? You can just give us a quick summary.
Take a look. When the sun comes up tomorrow morning, take a look at the progress that has been made. We've been attending the construction, or the contractors' meetings, had one this morning. We talk about all the little, little stuff that's going on, the little things that we have to deal with. The asbestos abatement that you just approved is one of the things that's holding up, that would have held things up had you not approved that tonight. The asbestos that we're talking about, one of the places, now, this is just so you can see where we are with the building project. Those little windows that are down in the basement, all of those windows are sealed with a caulking that has asbestos in it. So before we can take those windows out, before the contractors can do anything, we have to get the asbestos out of there so that the windows can come up, so that the bricks can go in. I'm just using that as one example of how these little things that pop up where, oh no, we hadn't really thought about that. We are dealing with XL Energy regarding a line that is, you've seen the power pole out here, and that line hangs rather dangerously close to where we want to put the rafters, or the joist, excuse me. And so that is being worked out. We have been informed that if that's not taken care of, that XL Energy can come in and stop the project. And so we want to make sure that that's taken care of. At our Building Management Committee meeting, which will be Thursday, we have a series of issues to deal with, not the least of which is getting the iron stove out of the basement. And that'll come up through the lift well. There are so many of these, like I say, these little pieces, but if you go out there, take a look, they were actually going to pour the floor today, but because rain was imminent, they postponed it till tomorrow. And so you'll see a concrete slab being poured tomorrow. All of the heating ductwork is in. You saw the walls that are up. The windows, I believe, are on order. That what you got out of the meeting this morning, Mark?
Correct. I hear there'll be sometime here within the next 2 weeks.
They're anxious to be able to get, we're coming back to the asbestos. The front of this building and the side of this building will be covered with what's called an ephes. And that will require that we temporarily, while that ephes is going up, well, we got to get the windows blocked up, so we got to get the asbestos out, see how this goes. And then we're going to have to move the handicap ramp here while they put the ephes up. And so I asked the contractor, I says, well, couldn't we just postpone that piece until the front entryway is finished? And he says, yeah, if you want to wait till spring. Oh yeah, that's right. We're coming into cold weather. We're anticipating that cold weather will be upon us soon, so we have to get that done so we can get the ephes up, but the ephes can't go up till the ramp is done. See how all this goes. I have the project printout, the project, yeah, I just lost it, Microsoft project. I get one of those every 2 weeks, and we go down and we take a look at all the pieces. Where are the little pieces that we need to take care of? What's holding things up? And I tell you the truth, it's kind of exciting to see it going up as quickly as it is, and we're very pleased with the contractor, the relationship that the contractor has with all the subs, with the architect, and with us as a board. So that's, if you have any specific questions, I'll be glad to entertain them, but
Only one.
going good.
Basically, we're on schedule.
We are on,
and
right, Mark? We are on schedule. It's really going good.
Super. What? I know that that's the building committee has spent, continues to spend an awful lot of time managing the details associated with it. And that's much appreciated. Okay, public welfare?
Public welfare met Thursday, and
Before we leave that, I just wanted to make everybody aware, at some point in time related to the Village Hall construction, on at least one day, possibly 2 days, when they do the asbestos removal, we'll probably have to close Village Hall, because you need to basically get everybody out so there's no fear of personal contamination. So, just want to make everybody aware of that.
While that's true, what we're going to try to do is, like the floor in here, we're going to do this at the end after we've already moved people out, so as to have minimal disruption for the staff and for the community that has to meet with the staff. So we're doing our best to minimize that kind of disruption.
Okay. Sorry. Public welfare.
nope, that's fine. Public welfare met, and the key issue that was brought up will be fall yard waste curbside pickup. The dates for that have been established for November 5th and 6th. Is that right? And 7th. So it will be those 3 days. On here, I see there is an error in the minutes that we have to take the 8th off.
So the 8th isn't in addition if needed?
No, we're going to, what we did last fall was we did the 7th, 8th, and the 9th for an additional. So I talked to Mark yesterday, and he said there shouldn't be any problem. Between you and me, if we need an additional day, they'll do it afterwards. But as far as posting it for the village, we're going to say the 5th, 6th, and 7th.
November 6th and 7th?
Yes, correct. 5th, 6th, and 7th. As far as the costs, they are remaining the same as they were in the existing contract that was initiated last spring. Obviously, we don't know how much will be picked up, but we'll be assuming it will be similar to last fall's.
Okay.
And that is all I have to report.
Okay. Park Board, you had a long meeting.
Yeah. Mostly we're still working on the development of the 5-year plan, coming up with what we want to do and how we can actually set dates of completion, since the plan that has been, in effect, hasn't even been followed through. We want to make it so that the plan actually gets some follow through.
Okay, good. No, just, I commend the Park Board for the sheer number of issues that you've been at least wrestling with. It's a lot.
And the Derek's they contacted me today and wanted to know if they could come to the meeting on Monday, which if they're not already on the agenda, can that just fall under report plan development? Or there's just a message on the answering machine that said.
When is your meeting?
Monday.
The 8th?
Yeah. If it's on, I think if we have discussion about park.
Is that discussion?
Is he there to talk about one of the items on the agenda?
He wants to talk about the Derek development.
Of the park?
Yeah. And there was just a message on my answering machine, so I haven't called him back with that. If it isn't specifically on the agenda, the Derek development, then.
And you can issue another agenda too.
Oh.
Post it up.
Oh.
If we need to.
Okay.
But we should do that as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'll go and look at it again.
Okay. All right, new business, item A1, appointment to the library board. There was just an error on my part. I thought the incumbent's term expired at the end of this year. It does not. Runs for 2 more years, which is good. So that item is removed from discussion. I didn't have anything else at this point. Gloria, did you?
The only thing that I'd like to remind anyone moving into the village that has not come in and registered to vote, to please do so. Even if you're moving across the street from where you currently are, we need you to re-register to get your new address. Moving down the block, or a new resident, so please come in, so avoid the line with the presidential coming up in 08. That's it.
All right. That's the last item. Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Meeting is adjourned.
Please take your new board packets.